Retro gaming in 2023 can be a daunting prospect for newcomers. If you're looking to collect retro consoles, you'll need deep pockets, as high street stores have latched onto the market and have a huge influence on game prices. In addition to this, there's the factor of space, because all those games will need to go somewhere. This leaves collecting out of reach for some. How about emulation? Well, you may not have the patience for setting up emulators yourself, and let's not even venture into the murky waters of acquiring ROMs. What if you just want to buy games and play them on modern hardware? In this video, I look at a few retro compilations which are available for PC and modern consoles. There are so many available out there, so I'll just go through a few which should scratch that retro itch. Let's start with Konami Arcade Classics, a title which only partially applies to this collection. So we have 7 games here which for the most part are important historical pieces. Scramble is a landmark release, but it does show its age. Scramble led to the Gradius and Nemesis games, same games, different name. And Nemesis and Gradius, whichever you prefer, led to the spin-off Salamander and Life Force game. Now these are decent shooters and they still play well. Twinbee and Thundercross are fun, Typhoon not so much, but the real disappointment here is reserved for the dreadful Haunted Castle, an arcade version of Castlevania, kind of. I appreciate its inclusion just for the fact I can revel in its awfulness. All in all, the collection isn't essential, but if you're curious, it can often be found on sale for a few quid. Now we're talking. The Castlevania Anniversary Collection takes a much-loved series and presents it beautifully. M2 handle porting duties here, so you know you're in safe hands. For the most part these games are brilliant, but even the lesser-loved titles, Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest and the 2 Game Boy games, they have their moments. Konami even chuck in the Mega Drive's Castlevania Bloodlines and the Famicom exclusive Kid Dracula for good measure. If only they'd included the PC Engine CD's Rondo of Blood. However, if you're looking for the origins of the Castlevania series, there's still a lot to love. These 4 titles cover the GBA period of Konami's franchise, which follows on from PlayStation's Symphony of the Night. The 3 GBA games are Metroidvania through and through, but the jewel in the crown is Aria of Sorrow, so maybe save that till last, otherwise the others will be underwhelming. The 4th game is Dracula X from the SNES. Now it's an odd inclusion, as it's pre-Symphony of the Night, and isn't that great? But pick this collection up when it's on sale, you can't go wrong. Are you sick of people telling you games used to be tougher back in the day? You reckon they're talking rubbish?
You've got some attitude, mister.
Give the Contra Anniversary Collection a spin, as it wears its arcade coin-pumping toughness on its bicep-bulged sleeve. Konami say you get 10 games here, but really it's only 7, and that's if I'm being generous, since a few are regional variations, such as the Pro Protector games which were released in Europe. However, these are all solid games, from the arcade original through to the essential Contra 3 and the Mega Drive's Hardcore. There's plenty of punishing run-and-gun action to be had here. Just make sure you're prepared for the onslaught of bullets and massive bosses. The Capcom Arcade Stadium collections are pretty expansive and pretty expensive, and include some greats from the venerable developer and publisher. Strider, Street Fighter 2, Giga Wing, Knights of the Round, Final Fight, 1944, The Loot Master, the list goes on. The presentation is great, and you can just buy the games you want if needed, but you may be better off waiting for some of the game packs to go on sale. Capcom's Blue Bomber was a big name on the NES and SNES, so it seems only fair that Capcom released numerous compilations over the years. The first one features 6 NES games, all of which will test your skill and patience. While it's only a small selection of games compared to some compilations, the quality is pretty decent across the board. Mega Man 2 is probably the highlight here. Sega have never been shy to re-release some of their Mega Drive back catalogue. They even re-released Mega Drive games on the Mega Drive itself back in the day. Now what we have here is a lot of bang for your buck, as over 50 games are included. Even ignoring some of the dross, Altered Beast, Super Thunderblade, you have some absolute classics, some of which fetch a lot of money in their original format. Gunstar Heroes, for example, goes for around £100 now on the Mega Drive. While there are some omissions, most likely due to Sega wanting to squeeze a bit more money out of separate releases for games like Thunder Force 4, or maybe even the omission of some licensed games. What remains is a stellar lineup of 16-bit classics. The presentation is also gorgeous in that it recreates a typical 90s kid's bedroom, adorned with game posters, a CRT TV with VHS player, and funky curtains which probably do belong in the past. 3 games may seem a little tight, but they will keep you busy for a while. The Game Boy title in this collection is fine, but Secret of Mana and its sequel, making its Western debut here, are the real draw. Hours of RPG goodness await. Released for a limited time in what was undoubtedly a tactic employed by Nintendo to drum up some extra funds before the end of the financial year, 3D All-Stars is a selection of 3 great Mario games. Mario 64 shows its age and appears here relatively untouched, which feels a bit lazy. However, the divisive Super Mario Sunshine and the sublime Super Mario Galaxy look great on the Switch. The biggest gripe about the collection is the absence of Super Mario Galaxy 2, one of the best in the series. That being said, this is worth picking up if you can find it for a reasonable price. I've seen it fetching frankly ridiculous prices recently. If you want to try out some older first-party Nintendo console titles on the cheap, then this is pretty much your only option. Nintendo making their older games exclusive to a live service probably wasn't on gamers' bingo cards when the Switch released, but here we are. There are some classics here, but the limited options such as lack of borders and so-so screen filters, and the limited availability, they're only going to be available for as long as Nintendo want them to be, mean this is harder to recommend than the other collections. If you really want to, you can fork out for the extra subscription to gain access to the N64, Game Boy Advance and Mega Drive games, but be aware this is pretty much a rental service. I can't fault a lot of the games though, because there are some undisputed classics here. So there we have it, plenty of games to satisfy your retro cravings, and that's just a smattering of what's available out there. I may do another video down the line. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, subscribing and enabling notifications so that you don't miss any content. Until next time, take care of yourselves and happy gaming.